On the 19th of March 2016, a shocking murder of a tiny 15-year-old girl would take place in Clydebank, Scotland. The girl, named Paige Doherty, at under 5 foot, weighed only 6 stone. She was no match for the 31-year-old male predator who had been preying on her. The deli owner, named John Leathem, a married man with a daughter himself, would murder her in his own business premises. John owned a shop called Delicious Deli in Clydebank and was well known in the area. Paige would regularly visit the shop for a bite to eat on her way to work. She had done this with her friend Lauren regularly on their way to school. Paige was a very popular girl, known for being friendly and fond of posing for selfies with her friends. The night before her death, she stayed at her best friend Lauren's house. She left early for her part-time Saturday job, but not before a last hug by her friend and taking a packed lunch made by Lauren's mother. On her way to work, Paige would stop at the deli for breakfast, entering the shop at 8:21 AM. She had done this many times before, but on this day, something was different. And only 10 minutes later, at 8:31, the shutters were down and the store was closed to public. That was all the time it took for him to murder his young victim and begin to cover his tracks. At the deli, he frantically washed and scrubbed all the floors and surfaces in an attempt to remove blood and destroy any evidence. He then drove his car round so it was immediately outside the shop. Sickeningly, as the young girl's body lay lifeless in the premises, he began to receive customers around an hour after he killed her at 9:36. At 10:05, he wrapped her in black bin bags and threw her in the boot. Later on, he remorselessly brought the body back to the home of his wife and child, putting her in the shed out of view. Meanwhile, Lauren began to worry as her friend had not messaged her at all that day and contacted Paige's mum, Pamela. Pamela did not initially worry as she knew she was working until 6. Even after she didn't return home after work, no one suspected she was already dead. As is normal of a 15-year-old, people suspected she had possibly went to a party or to a friend's house straight after work. But none of her friends had heard from her all day and they began to communicate on social media about her absence. Her friends even noticed that messages had been read even though she did not reply. Pamela really started to worry when she found out Paige did not make it to her shift at the hairdresser's. A missing persons case was called, which was nothing new to police in Greater Glasgow, who deal with around 30 missing teenager cases a day. However, by 12 o'clock that night, Pamela knew she had been hurt. Her mother's intuition proved to be right. Despite the community coming together to find Paige and bring her back to safety, that was already an impossibility. Posters were put up, locals were questioned, and a social media campaign was launched, but it was all for nothing. John Leathem, displaying a callous lack of empathy, took his wife and daughter to a family outing to Loch Lomond the day after the murder. The following day, on a Monday, he again put the body in his boot, driving it to a lane on the Great Western Road. He tried to hide it in some undergrowth, but by noon that day, the body was already found by a pedestrian. The case was cracked when a local shop owner told the police he had seen Paige entering the deli in question. Leathem said she had purchased a roll and left as normal. When the body was found, the investigation intensified. A crime scene investigator said the injuries were some of the worst she had ever seen. A post-mortem of the body revealed a ferocious attack. It was evident that Paige, despite her tiny stature, tried to defend herself, as there were around 85 to the forearms, back of the hands and palms. This represented defensive wounds. She died after deep and wide wounds to the neck, in particular a 9.5 by 6.5 centimetre, 4.5 inch. In total, she had been 61 times, 43 of these being to the neck. The people of Clydebank had to live with the fact that a killer was in their midst. As John Leathem was the last to see her, he became the main suspect. CCTV showed Paige never left the deli. After his arrest, he maintained his innocence, but evidence mounted up. His neighbouring shop owner had spotted him that day with blood on his face and had sold him bleach and black bags. Forensics found bloodstains under the floorboards, around the walls and kitchen appliances. Strangely, a motive for the attack has never been identified. Despite being grilled by officers, Leathem did not say a word about it. However, in court, he claimed he took the girl into his office to offer her a job. After finding out she was only 15, he claims he told Paige he could not offer her a job. He went on to claim Paige, angered at this, told him he would tell her mother that he had inappropriately touched her. This was apparently why he killed her. However, this narrative was dismissed and not accepted by the Crown Court.
No evidence has been placed before me to support your assertion. It is not part of the agreed narrative. It is not accepted by the Crown.
In my mind, this was perhaps a glimpse at the truth. It seems he may have invited her into his office with the promise of a job. From there, he may have tried to proposition the child. When she rejected his predatory advances, he reacted in anger. However, this is only speculation. He may have premeditated the attack. The only person that truly knows the truth is him, and he cannot be trusted to tell the truth. He was sentenced to 27 years after a plea deal, reducing the original sentence of 30 years by only 3 years. Shockingly, the killer appealed the sentence, saying it was too harsh a punishment. The appeal later meant his sentence was dropped to 23 years, meaning at the age of 54 he still gets to come out of jail and live the rest of his life, while a young girl never had the chance to really even begin hers. As established on the James English podcast, Pamela has tried to contact her daughter's killer to ask him why. However, he has not responded to any letters or requests for visitation.
How many letters have you wrote to him?
I've wrote a couple, but I've only sent one. I've thought about sending one to his lawyer and hopefully he could pass it on, but I don't think he would either.
But then, you never know, but I don't think people like that, they don't want to face reality. They're cowards, man.
Today we see a monster put behind bars for the unthinkable brutal crime he committed against our daughter Paige. A beautiful 15-year-old with a full life ahead of her and a massive family and group of friends are left to carry on with her no longer here. There is no sentence high enough to justify what has happened, but we can now say there is one less evil man in this world, which then makes the world that bit more safe for our kids to grow up in. Paige is now safe and can finally rest in peace knowing justice has been served to a high standard.